And we are live. All right. I am here with Sean Ellis, aka Sesshoumaru.
What's
He's out
going
here
on?
in Texas. Hi, thanks for having some time out there in Texas. I'm out here in California. Um, Basically, we're just going to jump right into it here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the state of tricking in the end of 2018 right here. Give you a quick background here. I'm going to talk for a little bit, and then Sesh can hop in here, and we'll see if we can get this thing started. But martial arts tricking, I don't think it could have emerged without the internet and with mass collaboration. And in the situation we're in right now, proliferation of media, the difficulty of encapsulating specific pieces of media, the idea of shareability and what communication even means. It makes things very, very complicated when we're talking about media. But the ability to share media and what the internet opened up, both good and bad, I don't think it would have. I don't think tricking as it stands would have been possible at all if there wasn't a correspondence across oceans and across cultures with the medium of video. And it's been really a really fascinating ride. We're certainly not any sort of founding fathers, but maybe we're some early church fathers, Sesh and I, of the early days. And we're
Yeah,
here to
I would
sort
say
of
I would say we're kind of we're along for the ride, just like everyone else. We're students in the game. We're just upperclassmen. We've just been in it longer than you, and well, not necessarily you, but the majority of you. We've kind of been in it longer. We've kind of seen where it's been, where it has been, and we kind of have a feeling how it's going to go. But yeah, like what Pete's saying, 100%, like absolutely. I mean, we've had people who came into the sport karate scene. They liked what they saw. People like Belang, Billy Bylang, and he made Belang.com. We've had tricks tutorials. We had, Tom Duong and Yellow Boy and dudes out there on the West Coast who kind of, made clips of like, what these crazy sport martial art competitors were doing on the NASCAR scene, and that kind of became the tricks that ended up being a part of this encompassing, system that we call tricking today. But tricking in itself is a very grassroots type thing. It's a very backyard tricker type thing. If you weren't a part of that NASCAR scene, if you didn't have the boatloads of money to shell out to get black and blue videos, David Douglas and Anthony Atkins to like show you how to do like tricks and stuff, then you were doing a very trial and error type way of going about learning this thing that we call tricking today. And people like Juji Mufu and or John Call, people like him making tricks tutorials, and even people like Sean Cannon, trying to do Club 540, like without them doing that stuff and putting video clips like on the internet for people to know, like very, very few. We have a lot smaller numbers that know about tricking, and shit, you probably wouldn't even know me, right? Like, for me, I came out, because I knew about Belang.com. Like, what if Belang wasn't there? What if it was a paywall? What if it was, just other stuff? But we'll get into that. I'm gonna give it back to Pete.
No, yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there for sure. But certainly, I would agree with the grassroots comment there. But essentially, where we find ourselves in 2018, we've seen quite a few projects come and go. We've seen quite a few people step up to the plate and not quite take an at bat in terms of people who had ideas of what they wanted to do in terms of monetizing elements of tricking, in terms of creating business opportunities out of different aspects of tricking, with mixed but altogether usually very disappointing results, except if it's done on a pretty small scale, smaller ventures, events, little runs of t-shirts, things like that. But what has come to a head here as we approach 2019 in the beginning days of December is we've had a blow up regarding the adrenaline. I guess we're going to call them a company, and that's been something that's been fizzling over the last year or so, and it's interesting. There's a mixed bag of responses and ideas about what's happening. And the reason we want to give you a little bit of background as far as where we're coming from with tricking as a whole, we also wanted to give you a little bit of background of where we're coming from initially before we start weighing in on things. Because in the end, we're basically just going to use this for a lens for what we really want to talk about. But essentially, adrenaline has stepped into the arena and has decided that they would like to attempt to create opportunities for the more talented elite level trickers, the cream of the crop, and give them an opportunity to make some money. And the ways that they've gone about it in terms of what they're actually planning to do, what they are currently executing, but most importantly, how they are executing it, has been a point of concern for a lot of people in the tricking community. And we assume most of you guys are up on this, but we wanted to sort of give you an idea of how we look at it and what's going on here. So again, I can't really speak for Sesh. I know it's true to some extent, but for me, I've listened to marketing firms, and I've listened to publicists and people who think that they understand the value in tricking, and they understand how to bring it to fruition in this way, which is going to allow a handful of people to prosper enough for them to take a bit of a cut. And it's something that I've seen again and again and again. They don't understand. And essentially, I mean, one meeting that I had, this is probably about 5 years ago, I told them, you don't understand that you don't understand. And this makes for an unbridgeable gap. And what they don't understand could be reduced to determinable concepts, but only at the loss for understanding the problem itself. And basically just the total market for eyeballs in 2018. This is how I would break it down. You got your opportunists, you have actual talented artists who are trying to do something meaningful or even prophetic. You got scammers, you got people with high ambitions, both well-meaning and shallow alike. And the region of this market, this attempt to get people's eyes in one place and spend money, this region that tricking occupies is completely inundated with parkour, free running, and on the fringes of this, you have the other extreme sports, which are constantly compared to tricking, like skateboarding, snowboarding, BMX, whatever it might be. And people understand well enough the danger of jumping a gap to meet a solid wall with their feet ready, anticipating that wall. And as they hit that wall, they flip, and then, they flip backwards before dropping down 20 plus feet, and they land. And they understand the hazard, and they don't quite comprehend the flip. The flip is mind-blowing to the layman, and it's just enough to give the piece of media the novelty it needs to gain traction, social media, or link some sort of risk-taking to some beverage or a pair of jeans. A full twist would add together an altogether different dimension of comprehensibility. If it turns into a dub, that's one thing. But these dimensions, once you leave a certain point, those distinctions they don't mean anything. Skateboarding the way the board flips underneath the person, there's very few people who are going to be interested in that, but it means more in skateboarding because that's a $4 billion industry. And what I'm getting at here is that if you look at something like skateboarding, which is now a $4 billion a year industry, I think that was the 2016 number, something I pulled up when I wrote my article. It's not that a couple people figured out a way to market something and then just did it. There was something underneath. There was a cultural break, this emergence of the power of the phenomena of skateboarding. That had to be there first. And to the extent we don't understand that, there's no reason to even try to do this, because there simply is no market. But I mean, that's essentially my take on adrenaline and what the mistakes have been up to this point are rooted in. The specific mistakes that they've made are a little bit easier to comprehend, pretty straightforward, very understandable, and we'll get into those too. But Sesh, what do you think of that take there? Any comments there?
Well, yeah, when it comes to being able to, I guess, aggregate everything that we know about tricking, everything that we know and love, and kind of put it out there as its own thing, it's very, very difficult, just like you said, because there's a lot of other disciplines that are extremely similar. Even in a lot of those disciplines, they even do the same movements that we do, but there are other elements to it that could be even more interesting, or make it even more dynamic. Is it as impressive? I don't know. That's in the eye of the beholder. But yeah, that's a very, very difficult thing to do. Like, to me, there's a reason why, a lot of, older trickers, older practitioners have kind of moved on to other things. They still trick, they still love it, but when it comes to what they've decided to do, because we've all made an investment into tricking. Beginners have small investment. Your veterans have a rather large investment, and as people start, keeping on throughout this, as time goes by. And they're taking that I'm a full-time tricker thing. They're taking that like seriously. There comes a time in your life where it's kind of like, okay, if I'm pursuing tricking full-time, if everything I'm doing is centered around me being in the gym so I can get more training time, so I can increase my skill, you hope that there's a payoff at some point. Maybe not everyone, but there are some people who feel like, man, I'm really invested in an ordinate amount of time into this. It's something that I love to do, something I'm passionate about. And, depending on who you are, it's something that I'm good at. Man, it would be great if I can keep this thing going, or if I could sustain myself with this whole thing. And I think, like, for a lot of people in the community, that's like the dream, right? Is to do what you love for a living. Now, is that feasible, like with tricking as it exists today? Like Pete said, it's not looking like it, man. Like the idea of saying, yeah, we're just going to drop a camera in a gathering and give it to fresh eyeballs who aren't trickers, who haven't been a part of that gathering experience, who don't know what it's like to grind, for months trying to learn a skill, and then you finally do it. But you don't have it 100%. You have it 40% of the time, but you don't care. You're ready to go to the next step, and you want to go to the next step while you're at this gathering. You got 75 people that, you only know by their username, because you really don't know them. They're from all over the world. They're all cheering you on. They're supporting you through this endeavor. Like your family probably tells you that you're wasting your time with all this tricking nonsense. They're supporting you through this whole thing, and all of a sudden it gives you this energy. You who could, land a 540, 4 out of 10 times are now about to try a jackknife. And like, because of all that energy and all that support, you pull it off. You know what I mean? Like, fresh eyeballs don't understand that. You know what I mean? And there's no way to give it to them without them being in the gym, without them being a part of the experience. No one wants to talk about, how everyone came up. And this was one of the things, like when It's Pain did the Rookie Chronicles, I thought that was a brilliant idea. Like the idea of being like, you know what, we're gonna focus on guys who aren't pros, people who fall all the time, more than anyone, people who have skills that don't look good. But we're gonna do these webisodes, and as time goes by, we see them getting hella good, or we see them creating that niche. One of them finds out that he's very, very good at doing like multiple kicks. Like he's just, no matter how many times he spins, like his kicks come out like perfect every time. Can't spin like crazy, like hella much, but when it comes to just the quality of his kicks, it's like really good. Maybe another one is like really good with like twisting, like wow, his vert spins are like hella good, right? Like Andrew Core, right? Hella good, right?
Right.
It's like, and people can get invested in the growth, and then as they have that investment, there's an attachment. Like, but just people who are just like, I'm awesome and I've always been awesome, and here's me doing all this wild shit. Like, that's a very tough thing to do. The only thing you can do is just be like, yeah, these guys are crazy. I don't know what they're doing. Everything they're doing is so advanced. I don't know the progressions. I don't know why it's crazy. I just know that I want to be doing that, and they'll watch a couple of videos, like, like it's a cheap thrill, and then they'll be past it. You know what I mean? Let's post memes on Reddit. Like that's going to be the next thing. The idea you're going to be able to pull some revenue streams like off of how tricking is today. Really, the only people who kind of care are the trickers who are already in it. And I think the trickers who are already in it are kind of even becoming even more disinterested themselves. But yeah, I don't think much different outside of what you said.
Right. Okay. So I really think that you're onto something when you're talking about what the fresh eyeballs don't understand. But there, when you do look at, and I want to try to move forward if I can, but if you look at like skateboarding, I don't know exactly to what extent, but people, it's ingrained in so many narratives. Whether it be a movie, or if someone's just seen a clip. Someone's seen a clip of some guy eating it 4 or 5 times or whatever, and it's this thing that is, it has so much inertia already in the culture, and to me, and this is why I'm using this as a bit of a segue here. Whether it be HKPK, Trickstar, or I guess it's either defunct or dormant Red Bull Kick It, they've sort of used a skateboarding format, when they try to set up this sort of business plan, and what's one, without getting into the specifics that really set off the community, I just think that there's nothing unique about any of these trials, which was novel in either the approach, as far as the format of these events, or the way that it's launched. The idea that you will deliver something like tricking in a way that is effective and creates traction, which creates want and desire and a need for more time being viewed or some sort of product, to deliver something like tricking and not lose it. Even to try to do a watered down version successfully, I mean, it's flopped. It's flopped again and again and again. And we're going to talk a little bit about why that is, what the pattern is, and what makes these groups that come in, why, if there's so much aversion, the community doesn't like it, why does it keep happening? And we're gonna jump into that. I'm not sure. I don't really want to talk about adrenaline all that much with this talk here. But what's your understanding of what they've been up to and what's going on currently? And do you think that there's anything particularly different with what they've attempted to do over the past couple of years and what people in the past have done? I'm going to try to chime in a bit later here, gather my thoughts while I listen to you.
No, I don't. I think they have a very, I guess, ArtMD street flips type way of kind of looking at it, where it's kind of like it, to me, it just kind of seems like, not to throw shade at them. I mean, I hope, that they're, successful. They figure out like what works. I didn't think it would go this way. I'm not pleased in their strategies as of now, but I don't wish them any ill will. But as of right now, it's kind of like an ArtMD street flips type hustle thing going on. Like they're kind of doing, what you see happen in video games, right? Someone will release a video game. It's not 100% fleshed out, but they're constantly making updates to it. People get invested in that video game and they're like, oh wow, we like this, this is cool, but man, there's some features missing, but it's got potential. And then they start releasing a little bit more, giving you a little bit more of what you want, but it's hidden behind extra fees, a paywall, and you have to pay every single time. Every single time you want that hit of that new content or that fresh new interview, you have to shell out a little bit more. And the thing is from a psychological standpoint, that creates an even larger investment than what you already did. So you have someone who already loves tricking. They're already in the community and they've already made a large investment. And then they've made an even deeper investment with Adrenaline Worldwide. And then while they do that, they're constantly making small payments, to bury themselves deeper in that investment. And it kind of creates this whole sunk cost fallacy thing. And people who can afford it, they'll always justify why they spent the money. You know what I mean? But for those who can't, they just miss out on the content unless, someone leaks it. And usually that is kind of what happens. And that's another, I guess, reason like why, these type of tactics don't work. Like, people leak information, but yeah, that's in a nutshell. Yeah. That's kind of how I feel.
I don't want to talk about the leaks too much. However, I do think it might be beneficial, if not even entertaining, if you would care to explain a little bit about what is ArtMD and what is street flips. I don't think some of the young guns might not know anything about that. You want to give us a quick rundown on that one?
Oh man. Okay. So I can't really remember the year. I want to say, I really want to say it had to be before 2009. I want to say it had to be before 2009. So maybe 2008, something like that. But there was a guy who came up on tricks tutorials. His name was ArtMD. Pretty athletic guy. He had the physique. He had everything that he pretty much needed to aspire or to eventually grow into a pretty damn good tricker. But like when he first came out into TT, he was very up on himself. Like he was very like, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. We're really good. We're out here hustling. Y'all guys don't know about us. He had that mysteriousness to them, right? I guess kind of similar to when I came out. And there was he had recruited, a couple of guys. I think they were out of Florida. He recruited a couple of guys like kind of out of Florida who were like, yeah, we like the way he thinks. We think he's good. And I think maybe two of them were like trickers that were on TT that we knew for a long time. And they kind of started like, flying his colors, and we're Team Street Flips, and we're doing this, that, and the third. But ArtMD, he was very ambitious for like someone. The community was like, who the hell is this guy? This guy's new, and he's already talking about how he's gonna do this and do this and do this, and everyone was skeptical. But we saw footage, and he was like, oh, I'm doing this, and I'm doing double fulls. I'm working on my double back. I'm doing these type of combos, and we're kind of like, oh wow, he has some talent. Like, it's not clean, but like, this guy could be onto something. He could be pretty good. And they did get better. They did get better. But ArtMD, he didn't really get better. Like, the people who I guess flew under his banner, they were serious. Like, they trained for real. And they, were very hyped, like, because Tricking was kind of going through a lot in 08. Like, more people were kind of getting off the whole, NASCAR, I'm going to do a round off flash kick in the corner, like setup, routine. And they were getting more into, the renaissance of Tricking, where like, people were like, okay, there's backsides, there's wraps, there's all these different types of transitions. Like, this was happening around like 08. So, and they were getting hit. A lot of them were getting hit to it, but RMD wasn't. He was just like, I'm going to learn double B twist. I'm going to learn double court. I'm going to learn double full. I'm going to do all the dubs. I'm going to learn like maybe a couple of kicks just so I can combo into the dubs. And that was like his whole strategy, but he never got it down clean. So what ended up happening with Art, when people started realizing like this guy's a clown, was he made some posts where he was like, I see all y'all guys when y'all got all this talent, but y'all ain't trying to like make no money, right? Like, there's mad money in this. And he was like, oh, okay, this guy's a hustler. Like, that's cool. More power to him if he could pull it off. Like, like we've already kind of been down that road a little bit. And he was talking about, we'll do whatever it takes. If we gotta, sell tapes like out of the back of the car, and there's going to be websites, and we could embed videos here and embed videos here, and it's just like, I don't know like where, because like monetization on videos like wasn't really a thing like at the time. Like, it was possible that you could land something like that, but it was like rare, man. Like, the whole YouTube live thing, like, that didn't happen yet. You know what I mean? Like, right. That didn't even happen. Like, John Chu and all that shit, that wasn't even there. This dude was talking all this shit like before all that. And he was just, it's not that different from what Adrenaline's doing right now. But their whole scene got blown up when Hurricane Tricksters, Danny Graham, mostly Danny Graham, was like, I see these guys talking all this shit on the internet. I'm gonna battle them. And he like battled like, I think two of them. He battled Art. And he like smashed him, and then he battled what's that kid's name, man?
I can't remember his name either. I've been trying to think of it.
Yeah, I can't think of his name, man. Yeah, I can't, man. I remember I remember some stories about Prodigy going in on him though, but I'm gonna keep that one to myself, because that was an ugly situation. But it happened. If you can get it out of Prodigy, try to get it out of Prodigy. What was that dude's name? I can't remember it. But
as bad as I feel that I can't remember his name, I felt a lot worse watching him battle Danny, because that was, I mean, the ArtMD one was really bad, but I mean, it actually meant something there. And Danny was ruthless.
Yeah, Danny was like top form. Danny was top form. Hit everything cleanly, pointed toes, everything was strong. Yeah. And like with ArtMD, with him getting smashed on, I didn't really care. No, we all knew it was going to happen. We all knew he was like kind of like a clown. Right?
Yeah, it was just a matter of
we knew it, right? Yeah. But that other guy, when he lost, he was actually trying. Like that dude was like, I'm working hard to like get better. And he wasn't bad, but he had a bad day. I think those combos he was doing, he could land them. I thought at the time, I was like, oh, wow, that's actually a pretty impressive combo. It's actually pretty good for the time. Still, you're going to lose to Danny. Even if he landed it, he was still going to lose. But I was like, this guy is actually the guy who's actually putting in work. You know what I mean? At the whole street flips thing. And he's getting crushed. You know what I mean? Crushed. Because he chose the wrong team. You know what I mean? He was just on the wrong side of the court at the time. You know, and Danny was on the other side, like opposing him. He just
Indeed.
Oh, when they say like, oh, you know, it's the internet. You know, no one's career has ever been ended over the internet. Not fucking true. Not true.
Oh man,
because those dudes are gone.
I wish I could remember the name because I do want to talk about him because I think that there's some similarities. You know, where I think he went in there with the utmost confidence. And then once he saw what he was doing was failing, I think it started to go downhill a bit. But like you said, the talent was there. And what I see, the pattern that I see here, you have someone who is essentially saying, look, you can do this. And you know what? We're going to prosper doing this because you're talented, and it's going to be a win-win on all fronts. You're going to do well. You're going to inspire people. We're going to set an example for the community, blah, 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 whatever it is. And this is being done by people who have a false sense of confidence and don't know what they're talking about. They don't know, ArtMD actually, give him credit. He showed up. I think he even drove down there, flew down there, whatever. But holy shit,
he was there.
A call,
Yeah, he was there. Oh, the other kid's name was Romeo.
Thank you. Oh, poor
Romeo.
Bastard.
Yeah, y'all. If y'all hear that, search Danny Graham versus Romeo or Danny Graham versus ArtMD, and you'll see because they're on the internet. They're there.
I'm going to try to timestamp this and then put some links in the description too. So this is a little bit more navigatable. I don't know how long we're going to end up going here, but that's definitely worth watching. There should be a whole goddamn History Channel of tricking, and that should definitely have its own episode, the ArtMD. But what I loved about ArtMD is it brought the community together in saying no. The community has rarely been together at all on a yes.
Yes, that's true. True.
And that seems like it might be a bad thing. The only thing I can really think of, really remember where there was this positive, okay, everyone is down for something to happen, was the 08 battle. And everyone was just like, oh, okay, fuck yeah, this is going to be entertaining. We want to see this happen. It's the closest thing I can think of. No brand launches, no individual tricker. Every tricker had haters. Every trick, but ArtMD brought people together. Everyone had a real solid collective fuck you, which really brought kinship among people, and it's just funny.
Yeah, but that's kind of the tragedy. That's kind of the tragedy of it, though. Because the only time when it seems that the majority of the community can agree on something is when we're all united to destroy someone else. Not necessarily that, whether it's they deserve it or not. Usually when we were like, let's all come together to say no to this. We shoot someone down. We say, this ain't gonna work. We don't like the way you're doing it. This isn't a good representation of tricking. This isn't tricking I know. And we shoot it down, but we don't replace it with anything, right? Just like, I don't know, just like everything else, right? We don't like, freaking the Affordable Care Act. we're going to get rid of it, but we're not going to replace it with anything. So people are just, you know, without anything, like stuff like that. But
sure,
for tricking,
sure.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, for tricking, as far as tricking goes, I mean, other than the ArtMD thing, I'm trying to think. It happened to lesser degrees with certain things that ended up happening, but there wasn't like a across the board solidarity like that. And I don't think an across the board solidarity is necessarily a good thing when we're talking about a focal practice in the first place. Maybe on a couple principles on one main project, and then have discourse within that project and have a healthy balance. I didn't want to get too far off track, but I do appreciate your rendition of that story, and I'm glad we remember Romeo's name. You know, R.I.P. Romeo. I just remember those eyes in the video. Goddamn. The difference that I wanted to point out with adrenaline, and then we can probably move on from here, unless it ends up being more fruitful than I think. What adrenaline did correct is they have an essentially different format where they are in a position where they are drawing their funds not from a one-time, thing, but they are invested as a martial arts school. They have a successful, at least financially successful, martial arts business, which is subsidizing what is essentially a passion project. I know it's not that on the surface, and it's explicitly not. They're trying to run a business, but they're going to lose tremendous amount of money. And what I would say is, with tricking in the state that it is, if you're determined to sort of pave the way, not for a future of trickers making money, but to allow to be a patron of people who are artist athletes, then this would be the way to do it, is to say, look, this is tangentially at least interesting or enriching to this project, my life project as a martial artist. I'm a successful martial artist. I'm going to go ahead and sponsor this event every year, or say, you know what, I'm going to put however much forward, for these, 5 trickers, 2 trickers, 1 tricker, whatever it is. Or if you're going to do an ongoing project and really try to pave the way, I think that is the correct format, where, if you have this abundance coming in and this is your passion, which again, the Canes clearly at least claim that this is the case. They love the sport. They respect it. They admire these people. And that is what is essentially different with adrenaline. In terms of the way that the money's coming in, and to move back towards the word that we sort of started off this conversation with, in terms of investment. There's an investment there. I do not think that there's anything, unfortunately, novel in their approach, and nothing particularly impressive in their marketing, in the way that they structure their events, and huge missteps, misfires, really, really bad, just generally bad business practices, and burning bridges, where I think that they're going to end up having no ROI. They're going to end up deeper and deeper in, and I don't see this lasting more than another 2 years, more likely a year, and they're gonna be done, because they're not going to make any money. But I think it is a bit of a tragedy, because I think that they do have part of the format correct, but that's a big leap to make without a lot of prior planning, discussions, and it's just not. It's not the right. It's not the right way to go about this. They just jumped right in. They've given a lot of lip service to saying, you know what, we're going to. The purpose of this, we're gonna get exposure, and we're going to partner with people, and we're going to make tricking known. We're going to actually create this market. And what we've seen is pretty much the extreme polar opposite. The paywall is anti-exposure. They have not spread things out, but they've locked in and tried to monopolize the cream of the crop, and it's created a really bad environment because I don't want to go into any specifics, but you've got lots of independent contractors who are, these are the trickers who are essentially operating under the Adrenaline banner, who have signed NDAs. And without doing anything good or doing anything bad, they've cast a shadow of doubt on their project. And maybe not even necessarily so. But none of us have any indication that if they wanted to say anything bad about Adrenaline, or if they wanted to say anything bad about one of their events, if they wanted to say anything bad about one of the other participants, they're going to bite their tongue. And overall, I'm disappointed. But as far as the blowups that have happened recently, I do think it is wrong that I can't remember his last name, but Ivan released that footage, which is essentially intellectual property of Adrenaline. And there's a couple different things. Number one, it's just, I'm sorry, that's how the law works right now. I understand there was some confusion with the terms of service, but it doesn't matter. That is the intellectual property first of Alexander, and then was transferred to Adrenaline, and
Adrenaline has the ability to spread that how they want to.
Exactly, and to encapsulate
not us.
and restrict the method and scope of the dissemination of that content, and
of how that footage is distributed.
To the point, the effort to show the footage is a little bit different than trying to say F you to Adrenaline, because he just wanted to share the footage. He thought the thing was unfair and cheap and sleazy. That's fine. My contention is, number one, it's just wrong. It's not what we should be doing at all. It doesn't matter who it is. It's just this is how things work. You got to respect it. It is a problem trying to even define piracy in the digital age, because it's just how we communicate is through copying. But again, to the point, if Adrenaline is to fail, they need to do it on their own terms. They shouldn't have to point to anyone saying, like, look, not only did we not have support, we had people sabotaging our projects, and you're going to give them false hope. They're going to think, okay, well, eventually we'll get into it. This isn't our problem. This is the community. And it's really not. They were already failing, 100-fold by trying to promote the sale of footage like that. It's just, it looked corny, it looked tacky. And again, much like Romeo with the Street Flips deal, you have a truly talented tricker in Alexander, someone who's come back from injury, someone I think a lot of us really respect and admire for his skill.
Yeah, man, he's been working hard, very hard.
Absolutely.
As everyone else, everyone else who's like, your Bailey Paynes, your Michael Gusseries, your Omid, like that. There's lots of guys who've been up and down when it comes to injuries, and they've been pushing through it, gristle and all, and and they're working hard, So yeah, like it's not just like, oh yeah, well, Anderson's talented, he's gifted. Like, yeah, there's that too, but he's also killing it. He's also busting his ass. You know what I mean? So yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I think the community is all in agreement there, and they respect the skill. But what of Alexander? You have these people who have said, look, people might be upset, but you're in the right here. This is not only the best thing for you, but what you're doing here, it's really going to help the community. And we think we think this is the direction to go. Now, I've heard that this is his idea. I won't speak to that because I have no confirmation of that. It is something that I've heard. But again, as a business entity, someone who's apparently spearheading this essentially extremely delicate project, you're at fault here. You're the one who decided to go with this, and it made this guy look bad when he really didn't have to. And I do think he's well-meaning. I do think that he wants to prosper, and he would love to make a living doing this thing. And I think he got all the false encouragement that Romeo did, and he got all the false encouragement that ArtMD gave to himself. And I think it's the same case with a lot of these characters who step in and fill this gap.
Yeah. It's almost like they're just caricatures of the whole like street flips thing. But the thing is like, I guess the thing that's just so interesting is the people who have decided to go with the Adrenaline Worldwide and be a part of that and continually contribute to it. These aren't hustle type guys, man. They're not trying to pull the wool over someone's eyes. Like you said, like they're like Romeo, man. Like these guys are very, methodical, very intelligent, about how they approach tricking. They have a lot of insight and everything to share. But I guess the thing that I kind of have that hang up, just, on the inside, is that we've all had that, we've all had those insights and things that, we wanted to share, some more than others. Right. But you know what? We share them. And that's how tricking grew. We didn't try to limit the access where like, if like it was already limited, right? Because it's the internet. And you think about how many people back in the day, right? Like, 99, 98. How many people had internet at the home? Back when we were using fucking Netscape Navigator and dial up and shit. Like and you had to like wait like 4 hours to like download like a clip of David Douglas doing like a 540 on both sides. Like, you know what I mean? Like
I do know what you mean.
It was already limited to like not everyone can see this. So we're gonna have very few people find out tricking through this way. But they did find it though. Quite a bit of them. And they were like, man, we need to archive this stuff. We need to. Mike X was like, I'm gonna make a server, put all these miscellaneous clips. Now you got like 50 clips of Logan that we've never seen before. If you new school trickers, you probably don't know, but like, yeah, there was this guy named Logan, and he was like supposedly a boss, and like he was doing stuff like before a lot of people were doing stuff, and he was pretty good. And it's all true. He was good. He wasn't like the best, but he was better than what people knew, and he was doing it for a long time. And Mike X like had a bunch of clips of it, but like it was already limited access, And when the whole YouTube streaming came on, and like when everyone could do it, that was huge. No more sharing secret footage over AOL Instant Messenger and shit. Like, no more of that. We can just upload it to YouTube, paste that embed link through people's MySpaces, through freaking vBulletin, like forum boards. Like, you could do all this stuff with it, and it was like hella good. It was hella good, and that really helped us get ideas out. Oh, we got these concepts. We got this way of structuring it, and we can make this whole thing comprehensive, make this system much more easier to like decipher and spread and teach and get other people to be able to digest all this information that they're receiving into something where it's kind of like, okay, there is a system. It's not just them trying crazy stuff. There's natural progressions. It makes sense. You know what I mean? But imagine, like I said earlier, we're kind of going full circle, kind of freestyling a little bit. But like we said earlier, like imagine if that wasn't the case. Imagine if we were like, hey, we're going to have everything, not everything, but some of the most juiciest content, we're going to have that behind a paywall on top of like, not everyone being able to access the internet.
Mm-hmm.
How many people will be able to afford looking at that footage, or looking at that article or reading that information? Imagine that. How many people would decide to do it? It'd be considerably less, considerably less. Like we had dudes, like back in like 2002, we had like dudes from Africa. You remember that dude Edson? There was like a guy named Edson, like Domingos or something like that. But he was like in Africa, and that dude was like tricking on some sketchy shit. Like, you know what I mean? And
Not
he was like,
Eddie Wang.
Yeah, no, was him. I think, yeah, Eddie Wang. That's who it was. Yeah. Yeah, I think I could be confusing two different people. Or maybe it was the same person with a different thing, huh?
Someone channeled him. Someone had some sort of reference to him in the recent threads, and people actually remember Eddie Wang. But yeah,
hell yeah, like that dude. I don't know, granted, my perception of Africa is not that freaking great. I don't know, you know what I mean? But
right. He was in
judging
Angola.
from what it seemed, he was in Angola.
I think he was Angola. Yeah.
Okay. But judging from what it looked like, I was like surprised that he even found Tricks tutorials. But he was able to get it.
He must be royalty or something, man. Because I was just like, what? I think a lot of us were just like, it was a really heartening thing to see. People get posted about it and all, but it was still just like, holy shit! Yeah, let's get him to California. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's get these dudes out here. That dude who was like at the no, it wasn't the 06 gathering. It was the 08 gathering where that dude from Russia came, and all he had was like sandals and some really short shorts. And we were like, dude, this dude's crazy. And he tricked the whole goddamn gathering. Never got tired. Like, dude, this dude is not getting tired, bro. Like, he was an instant person to talk to. But yeah, like that dude came. And it's kind of like, bro, like, you know what I mean? Like we were able at that time, we reached crevices of the world that we did not expect to reach. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we did that through the free travel of information without it being inhibited. No, you have to sign up and have a membership. There wasn't no membership for Tricks tutorials. You know what I mean? As long as you didn't do anything dumb and get like for permaban, you know what I mean? You were good to go. You know what I mean? Like, you had access to everything, so yeah, the idea when it comes to like, I feel like what's good for tricking, how you grow it, not necessarily growing it as in like we want more people, or let me restate that. Not necessarily, not just restricted to, because we want more people to know about tricking, but we also still want tricking to grow, to mature. There's still a lot of maturation for tricking to go to. And when you're, doing stuff like, oh, we're gonna have like all this content, but we're gonna keep it secret, or we're gonna hide it behind like you have to pay your dues or give us this, that, and third before you to be able to even see this content. Like that kind of, it stifles it. Now, we can talk about the argument of maybe adrenaline, maybe reaching new trickers. Maybe that's not their modus operandi. Maybe they're appealing to a completely different consumer group who aren't trickers, and they just want to get money from them. I doubt it, because as a business, like, you want to open it up to as many people as possible so that you can, make your profits, So I doubt that's the case, but someone could make that argument. I just doubt it.
Well, I mean, this is something I believe I talked about in the article. I haven't reread the article because I didn't want to bring it up too much, but Hyper is basically doing that. So Hyper essentially branded tricking in a way that completely rebranded tricking. It's not tricking, it's Hyper. A lot of these kids are learning how to do, basic tricks. They don't understand it as tricking. They're doing Hyper. So the number that I was given back in what is that? 2015, early 2015, early 2016. Yeah, I think it was early 2016. Was that they are currently their capitalization value, whatever that is, whatever the term is $10 million, which I believe, because they're in quite a few of the chains. They're in quite a few individual schools. You just go down Bumblefuck, California, and I see a big old, painted sign Hyper, on the window. They're in it. And basically what they've done is they have offered up a consumer version of tricking, which is something that is easily assimilated by any teenage martial arts instructor into a program that they can teach. And they don't teach anything that's especially novel. It wasn't put together all that well. And if it was put together well, most of these schools are operating with the initial version where they're teaching the kids, no, you're not going to learn how to recycle hook kicks or, learn any sort of, work your way up step by step to a B kick. We're going to teach you how to
give you any tech.
We're going to teach you
how to do what?
Head springs.
Let's do head springs. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really disappointing. It's really disappointing. But someone had to do it, Sesh, and someone did do it. Because why? Why do these people show up? Why are these supremely mediocre people who are not passionate about it run the things? They may put some people into their under their wing who are passionate, or at least, like you said, invested. I believe Dan Perez is still an employee of some sort of Hyper. I certainly have respect for Dan. Where do these people come from? They don't fall out of the sky or come through some fucking membrane. Why do they show up?
Opportunity makes a thief, man. It's easy it's like kind of like the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? It's like it's easy for someone who doesn't have like the full scope vision of like what this is supposed to be. It's easy for them to come in and pitch an idea and keep it, pretty much rudimentary. It's easy for them to do that when they're existing in a market where there's no competitor. Just because other people within the community, for whatever reason, got cold feet and decided, I really don't want to put, the energy out there. I really don't want to get my ideas out there because maybe they're afraid of failure, or, maybe they tried before and they got bit like really, really hard, or who knows. But because there's not a really good example where we're kind of like, holy shit, like this is tricking, but like a lot more organized, a lot more professional, a lot more structured. And everyone in the community seems to be supporting it to some extent. Well, not everyone, but you know what I mean? Like a lot of people in the community are supporting it. And there's lots of feedback into, how business is going to be, how it's going to proceed, and like what our progressions are and what we aim to do, and setting benchmarks and hitting it, and actually getting people to not just be able to do cartwheels and shit, and like, aerials and stuff, but where people are actually saying, man, I didn't think I was capable of all this stuff. I used to look at, you know, Rasmus do all this wild shit, you know,
Yeah.
on the internet, and I used to think there's no way I could do that shit. But for some reason, I walked my ass in that gym, and I met with the local guys, and they showed me the ropes. You know what I mean? And they were able to guide me, be hands on with me. And then they told me about TT, or they told me about this Facebook group, and the guys there. You know, these guys were edgy as fuck, but they knew what they were talking about. And we had some laughs, and I learned some really good shit. And now I'm actually getting pretty good. And I found this other program, and they're talking about, you know, becoming a professional, becoming a pro. And we see these guys doing all this stuff, traveling all over the world. They're in these massive gatherings. You know, they're touring with this. They're opening up for whatever act. They're doing Cirque du Soleil, or they're working with the Velusta team. Like, you know, like they're doing all this stuff. And I'm starting to think that I have a shot at that, because I looked at where I started and I look at where I'm at now. And it's like,
absolutely,
these guys are onto something. You know what I mean? It's not hyper where it's like, oh, you know, we're gonna have, you know, Danny Etkin. We're gonna have like some really strong sport karate guys who are like fucking way beyond anything. You know what I mean?
Indeed, different.
We're gonna have them come and do all this wild shit and fill your head with all this ambition that if you join this hyper program, you're going to learn to do the same thing. And then, you know, for the next 4 weeks, you know, you're doing head springs, you're doing backwards rolls and shit. And you're like doing tornado kicks, like talking about hip turnover. So you can do a 540 maybe, but you never really get it. Like, you know what I mean? We're not talking about that shit. We're not talking about, you know, giving someone a lofty ass dream and then like not guiding them towards it, but like you're extracting money from them. Like, we're talking like a real thing. Because that thing doesn't exist, you allow the filth, you allow the trash to come in, you know what I mean? Say, oh, we're tricking, or say, hey, we're not tricking, we're doing our own thing. And that's fine. I would rather them do that and say they're not tricking at all. You know what I mean? But you allow them to come in, do something that's very similar to tricking, and do a very, very poor job of it. And then the customer base or the audience that you're seeking that to bring into your fold, when you try to tell them about tricking, they're kind of like, oh, I've seen this before. This looks like hyper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No thanks. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, that's why they exist. They exist because there's not a better alternative.
Okay.
And you allow them. We allow them.
Yeah. It's less about, you know, what hyper is and what hyper is doing. It's where we are the soil. And to a certain extent, you know, this may sound like a cop out, and it may be a cop out. You know, that's sort of what tricking is. It's this, you know, emergent thing. And I honestly, I feel very lucky that I got to watch this thing grow and you know, along with technology and seeing the ups and downs of it and all of that. But yeah, there is this sense that, I don't want to throw too many people under the bus here, but I feel like I squandered a legacy. You know, not for lack of trying, but for lack of, you know, effectiveness. You know, there's certain things that it felt like should have happened. It seemed like there was potential, and it's hard for me to say when I look at things right now. At looking at Adrenaline, we'll bring it back to them here. If we were to say, you know, this is what should probably change, you know, initially and for the most part, and we can make adjustments, or the whole thing needs to be torn down and restarted. Like what input would you give them? What would you say to them as far as, you know, hey, this needs to be cut out immediately, or because there's something missing there, and I'm not so much interested in the answer. I guess what I really would like to know is, what is it that they're missing? Where they're missing the forest for the trees. That thing that's not transferable, not convertible or sellable to your new eyeballs. What I honestly I don't know if that's a message that they're ready to hear, because they really are uh, eclipsed by this project, and I think um, that's sort of sad. But what if anything in terms of specifics? Because I've been pretty hesitant. I do have ideas, and I do have projects that I think should be instantiated in due time. Um, in the current state of tricking, and also including the current status of Kickit, the current status of things like Torque, etc., Loopkicks, whatever it might be. What is the cohesive, culturally enriching, the thing that is the answer, Sesh? Give us the answer, please. How?
Man,
Tell us how.
that's the thing. There is no there is no one answer, man. That's the thing. It's like, just because of what tricking is, because there is no one single way to do it. There's no one single answer to this issue. There's a bunch of different ways to encapsulate like what tricking is to an audience. For me, because of what I focus on, like, which is just style, purpose of movement, trying not to do too much. Instead of trying to do the best move, choose the right move. You know what I mean? That like,
Yeah.
that the theme of my combo or whatever what I'm trying to express calls for. Yeah, could I do something harder? Yeah, I can, but that's not the right thing to do. Like, so for me, my approach would be just immersion, getting whoever who's watching it invested as much as I possibly can through a screen. To let them know, hey, here's me training. This is what a training session is like. I have my dudes around me, your cohorts, the people that ride or die with you. I have my dudes around me. This is how I'm training. You're gonna watch me fall. The clips that you see on adrenaline, me landing wild shit, that's not all the time. You're gonna watch me fall. It's gonna be Rookie Chronicles action. You're gonna watch me come up. You're gonna watch my friends come up. You know what I mean? We're gonna talk. You're gonna know the jokes that we tell, know the inside jokes. You know what I mean? You're gonna be able to get to know us, almost like what's that thing with was goddamn Jim Carrey? That movie where it was like, was it the Truman Show, where he didn't know?
Sounds like it.
Huh? Yeah,
Sounds
like that. Like it's gonna be like that. You're gonna really, really, really get to know like the athletes. And then when we have adrenaline related stuff, then you're going to see like, okay, now here's the hustle. Here's how the grind pays off. We're doing a show. We're doing a tournament. They got champions over there. Well, we had a local event, and we got our champions. We're going to compete against them. We're going to have a good time. You're going to get to know them. We're going to collab with other groups, Adrenaline and Kicking, Unrestricted and Giga, like Gathering. We're gonna collab with all sorts of type of people. You're gonna get to know a lot of people, and kind of get them to understand, like despite all the different backgrounds that we all come from, we all have one passion, and we all speak the same language, and it's tricking. and it's tricking. When that guy from Russia came to California, we didn't know what he was saying. We didn't speak Russian, and he spoke very little English. But we had good sessions with him. He understood, like, we lined up, because like when it's so weird how when you go to a gathering, how everything is automatic, right? Because the way we session in Texas is probably different than how people session in Cali. It's probably a little bit different than how people session in other places. But for some reason, when you go to a gathering, you meet everyone, shake hands. Oh, I'm such and such. Oh, I'm such and such. Oh, hey, man, that's crazy. You look a little taller on film, right? Like, we all get it, right? And then people like, yo, let's get the open floor session going. People start playing the music, and then people just naturally line up in a way to where there's enough room for people to let loose on the floor, but there's also not one giant line to where there's this humongous wait line for someone to go. It's like this unspoken telepathic thing where we just figure out, boom, this is how the session is going to go, and it just works. And we all encourage each other. We all feed off each other. And you want to try to get whoever who's watching through that screen, you want them immersed so much that they're encouraging people. Yo, this guy, he's trying to do this. I don't even know what the fuck it is, but I, saw someone else in some other episode like trying it and they couldn't do it. Seems like it's really hard. Will be really awesome to see it. And you want them immersed in that. You know what I mean? And that's just one way. That's like the approach that I would probably take if I was doing something kind of like adrenaline, where I would have like, a bunch of maybe a bunch of different feeds. Maybe each athlete has a particular live feed. Like think about them, like Invincible. I think James Daly had a really good opportunity. You know what I mean? Because his approach, like, I liked his like filming style and his approach to like documenting stuff a lot more than adrenaline, and like kind of felt like that, where it was like, okay, we're gonna have a lot of different athletes. Maybe everyone's got like a camera on them, right? Like, imagine like every athlete has like a body cam, like the police like are supposed to, right? Right. And you're just capturing the real stuff. Don't try to sell them some gimmick like, oh, we're all rock stars and we're all, living the crazy life. It's like, fuck all that, man. We're all really simple, very down to earth people with just enough money to care about the people that are the most important to us and to do some nice things for ourselves every now and then. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, the majority of us aren't mad rich. We're not like with model chicks like on the left and right side of us. We're not running down the streets like in the middle of town, like turning flips and doing all this shit every day. That's not real. You know what I mean? We don't do that. Some people do, but for the majority of us, we don't do that. Why even sell it? Like, oh, we're just a bunch of street performers. We're not street performers. You know what I mean? We're not, man. Like, this ain't New York. This ain't Boogie Down Bronx, man. We're not street performers. We just love this thing. We get a lot of enjoyment out of it. It's fun. And when you're at a gathering, that energy that you feel, it's like the Holy Goddamn Spirit, man. You feel energy from everyone. Everybody's doing Genki Damas or Spirit Bomb. I'm thinking Dragon Ball Z. Everybody's doing Spirit Bomb shit. Give me your energy. Everybody's like just high off that vibe, and they're just able to do things that they normally wouldn't do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like an amazing feeling. That amazing feeling of support. And that's kind of what it's all about. It's just the support, people understanding, man, this dude's grinding. He's working for this. He said that he wanted to try this and he had these type of ideas, and we're seeing him slowly build up to it. and he's fleshing it out, and he's trying to make this gathering be the spot where he does this, where he unveils it to us. You know what I mean? Hans Wickland's going to wicklash. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that came out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Oh
For us, we get to see it and just be like, what the hell was that? But for Hans, who knows how long he was thinking about that? Who fucking knows? There was no precedence for that. There was no build up like, oh, well, we've seen Hans like practice like, you know, pop 360 hooks into like dive rolls or something. He didn't build up to that shit. You know what I mean? He didn't. He was just like, I'm hype. Boom. You know what I mean? I never talked to Chris D about it. Like, hey, have you seen Hans try to do that ever before? We were just like, oh shit. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, where did that come from? You know what I mean?
I have no idea, man. I have no idea. I was filming that too. I felt so good. That was such a great session.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Oh my goodness.
It was crazy. And this was like the same night where Hans like hurt himself battling Vince. You know what I mean?
That's absolutely. And you know, dude, Sesh, I really appreciate what you said, because I think I usually, when I start thinking about this stuff, I think in really reductive terms. But I think you know, you're right, and it is this supportive thing, and there's a real collective endeavor, which isn't any sort of collectivism. You know, it can turn into leaning, which again, that's been my experience in a lot of the team situations and, you know, failed projects or whatnot. But it really is something else when it comes together. And I think that is one of the things, one of the many things, the possibilities that you're talking about. This essentially unlimited thing, which tricking can be if you allow it to be whatever it is. That people who are starting to look at it in a one-dimensional way and really drive for one thing necessarily have to put to the side if they're going to do it the way that they're doing. But what you just talked about there is the second thing I really wanted to speak about tonight, which is this sense of appreciation and transience. I've been working out with Alex Hunter a lot, and he got injured recently. You know, he'd really
Alex
been
is a god, man.
Yeah. I just visited Philly where he grew up, and it's been a lot of feels in the last week here. But he got hurt, you know, trying to do a double back. He's about maybe 30, 40 pounds heavier, a lot more muscle than when he was really, you know, hucking those things. And he's still able to trick. He's going to recover, and I think he's going to, you know, have another good run, you know, and do some crazy shit that we haven't seen before. But as you move on, you know, the day will come where we won't be able to do this shit anymore, whatever
Indeed.
age you are. And to be able to take the time, not just, you know, in wanting a goal and reaching for a goal and having this achievement, and then in the end sort of just, you know, being like, oh, whatever, you know. I mean, I spoke to John Vanek, and he's like, after I landed triple B twist, nothing really changed. It was like really cool for a day, but I mean, you know, life goes on. You know, enjoying the time that you have, and you know, the process of learning about and having mastery over certain aspects of your body, and enjoying the feeling, the fleeting moments that you have there on the floor, and realizing that it will come to an end, you know, whether injury or you're just no longer here on this earth. And I think that's the kind of thing that we saw in the future of tricking is the furthest thing away from that. It's this strange, wanting sort of desperation which is forgotten about quite a bit. And I think that contrary to what a lot of people say, when these discussions happen online and they're talking about adrenaline and people are not necessarily defending them, but just saying, hey, look, adrenaline, they're going to do what they do, or, whoever it is, HKPK, whatever, that's not going to stop you from doing anything. And you know what? They're right. They're correct. Although when you take up a certain amount of rent on these platforms where people are distributing, their ideas and their thoughts and, the content that they're creating, when you are essentially creating sedition acts for the elite trickers, where they're no longer able to, talk. You talk to someone, and you don't know if you're getting the straight answer from them, because they're scared they're going to get screen capped, or even in person, they just don't want to. They don't want to. You're not going to hear what they have to say. I mean, before we even start talking about how doing that, having people sign NDAs is, it prevents constructive criticism and casts that shadow of doubt. It's causing not even discord in the community, but a muteness, and we're losing our voice. And I mean, that's really why I wanted to put something together tonight, and I really appreciate you coming out. I wanted to get some more people in. Maybe we'll do this again in a week or two. But when I think back to those moments, I tried to go to camp this year, and it was a completely different world than 08. When you brought up Hans, just it's hard for me to even go back to that. Not because I'm senile as fuck or anything like that, but just that feeling. It's been a while since I've really been there. Since you
felt that good, dude.
Yeah.
Since you felt that hype. You know what I mean? Like, that was a magical freaking day, dude. Like,
it was incredible.
Cause like, Vince was going in. Vince was fucking amazing, man. And like, it wasn't looking good for Hans. And Hans got up on that. He got up on that thing on the wall. He climbed up there and he was doing like a King Kong type impersonation. And he was like, get everyone riled up. And everyone was like laughing. And there was like a little, and like, it was a weird mix of people being hype and people like also like kind of laughing because it's like so absurd. Like, dude, Hans is wilding out right now. He's so into it. And Hans is beating his chest and he jumps off that thing and he like stomps like into the spring floor as he lands. And like the way his body like recoiled like off it was kind of like we knew like, oh man, like Hans just hurt his back. And he was on his ground rolling, and he was, he looked like he was in some real pain. But at the same time, Hans was like, this is the night show. I'm in the middle of a battle. I'm going to suck this shit up, and I'm going to finish it. Then he gets up, grimace on his face, and fucking throws double butterfly twist. Lands that shit clean. Like fucking US Open. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just, and I was like, me and you, we know. Hans is strong as fuck. You know what I mean? He's ridiculously strong. Where he gets it from, I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? But he's got some Hulk shit going on. And he just summoned that shit, land that double B twist, and just carried on that day. And then later on, he does this whiplash out of nowhere. Like the energy, man, and the heat of that night was so crazy. We saw Snappy Swipe swing through Gainer from Rudy. We saw freaking Sammy Vasquez turn into a fucking animal, like in the battle. You know what I mean? Like in a fucking animal. We saw that shit. We saw like Kyle McLean do like fucking every fucking full variation, like knowing the man, like, in combos. We saw fucking Denise doing like figure four double corks, like all sorts of type of goddamn variations. We saw freaking Prodigy, like, you know what I mean, like comboing into doubles, which I've never seen. Like at the time, it was just all of a sudden he was able to do it. Like we saw so much stuff. Freaking Teddy was there. Rudy Meadows was there. Like there was so much. Kier was there, like going in. That Russian dude going in, like that energy was insane. Freaking Matt Emick does box cutter the splits in the middle. Like we've never seen this shit. You know what I mean? You remember that shit? Like, dog, that was crazy. Wayne Douglas, freaking there was everybody was there, dude. Yeah, Wayne Douglas like tumbling like fucking 15 feet in the air. Basic shit, but fucking ridiculously high. Like it's kind of like no one has a backflip this high. Like that shit was way up there. You know what I mean? Way up there. And yeah, like it was crazy, man. It was crazy. And like I see videos and I see samplers, not to take away from like what happens in other gatherings. In other gatherings, I'm sure that the vibe gets pretty intense, you know, but at that gathering, man, that's very high up, like on the list of when it comes to just vibes, like where the vibes was just like off the charts. Right. When you're like, you're looking into other people's eyes and people are like, and all you see is euphoria. Like, it's kind of like everybody at that time was in that moment. Nobody was thinking about like, man, you know, traffic is going to be crazy when we leave here. Nobody, you know what I mean? Nobody was thinking about anything else. It was just like, we're all in the moment. You know what I mean? Like, crazy, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no doubt, you know, people, you know, young people now, they have those moments, and, you know, I'm sure gatherings are one thing. It's just, you know, I just, I feel like an old man. You know, I'm not out there tricking anymore. And I really do want to open the dialogue with younger people. It's just, man, it's a really difficult gap to bridge, and as far as this stuff goes, and, you know, the direction of tricking as a business, and, you know, what happens to it culturally. You know, these people that we're talking about, you know, these were really good friends at the time. You know, Anise, Hans, you know, some of the first people I met in California, Jeremy, you know, and these relationships, a lot of them end up being pretty superficial, you know, over the internet, you know, just from, you know, admiration, which is very different than love. And those things are very difficult to separate.
Very different things, yeah.
And yeah, and I don't think that needs to be like a recurring message. This doesn't have to be religious in that way, at least, you know, but religious in terms of, you know, that it's something that people do have an opportunity to really take seriously in order to see it and imbibe it, and like the word that you said, immerse themselves in all that it is. There needs to be space for that. And I think you're right, as far as if they're going to go with an adrenaline type format, there needs to be narrative, not just a story for the story's sake, but just, you know, the stories have to happen and they have to speak out through people. You know, it could be fiction. That's fine too. But it can't lose its soul.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gotta keep that core, that core like inspiration. And it's just that, you know, we're all in it together, you know? Like Adrenaline Worldwide is in the athletes that have, sign themselves to that brand. It's not just those athletes. Those athletes are still reacting, competing against people who are not Adrenaline Worldwide stuff. Like those guys, they're not getting inspiration solely from the members that are also in that group. There's people outside of it that they've been getting inspiration from and that they're still getting inspiration from, and it's very important, I guess, just from a representation standpoint, where I feel like other trickers want to see that represented. It's not just completely insular. Like, oh yeah, we're the Adrenaline Worldwide stuff, and the only thing we speak about is what Adrenaline Worldwide guys do. Like, and again, like, because they're on a contract, we don't know, like, if they can even talk about other people. Like, can they be like in an Adrenaline video and talk about Rasmus? You know what I mean? Or talk about, flow, like the German flow. You know what I mean? Sure. Like, can they do it? You know what I mean? I don't know. You know what I mean? But like, that's the thing. It's like you start getting into the Adrenaline Worldwide stuff, and the stuff that's happening in the tricking community kind of goes away, and it just becomes what's going on in Adrenaline, and that's just kind of not representative of the tricking community, And yeah, that's the challenge. Is how do you, that's the challenge for Adrenaline. It's how do you, try to do something that's a good representation of the community, but at the same time, make sure that you're not giving so much to the community that you're taking away from yourself. Like, that's a very tough thing to balance. But but I think the way it's being handled right now, it doesn't look like they're trying to balance it at all, And I think that's kind of
they're in trouble there. They're in trouble. One of the first things that you said after I tried to sort of kick things off here, you're saying that we just sort of been in this longer, but there needs to be this this sense that things are in process, and that it's okay to be wrong, or inadequate in the way that you present yourself, or projects don't only fail, they fail miserably, and the community will accept you back into the fold. We're not, as a whole, the biggest assholes have been completely forgiven, and people forget, and we move on. And I think that it's important that people understand that, because when you really do invest yourself in something, and you get some sort of reaction like the ones that have been thrown up with Adrenaline trying to do what it's got to do, I mean, that's got to sting, man. That's got to really sting. When you're putting in that kind of investment, money, time, effort, and your reputation and all of that. So, I don't see it happening though. I think that there's some real problems, some real blockages, and I don't know. I definitely I definitely appreciate this talk here. Hans wanted to jump in here. I told him we'd set something up maybe in a week or two and do something again, but I'm unable to get on Facebook at this time, so we'll try to put something together with a larger group. But I mean, we've had some pretty long late night conversations. We talked about potentially doing something like this in the past, so definitely appreciate it, man. Any closing thoughts? We're at an hour and a half, so I think
no, it's been good, man. I think 2 hours is not bad. I mean, I guess I don't know if this is like podcast action, but I mean, I would think 2 hours or an hour and 30 minutes is about right. So I don't know. I feel like we're doing pretty good. But yeah, for like closing remarks, I would say, everything that we're saying, it's not all bad news, right? And the reason why it's not all bad news is because time. We still have time. We don't know how much time we have, but we still have time. And just like Pete said, like a big thing about tricking, big thing about life is learning from your mistakes, and not just learning from your mistakes, but also being wise enough to learn from the mistakes of others, to understand why things didn't go well, where the obstacles are, where the pitfalls are, and try to meet those things out as best you can when you give it a go the next time. And that's why it's important for people to be able to talk about things and to have discourse and to have your falling outs and to have your rivalries and have people go out and do their own things and go their separate ways and make these mistakes, because in the end, it gives us a better blueprint of where not to go and more insight on the types of paths that we probably should be following. Where didn't we look? What turn did we decide to skip? We went left here. Let's go right next time. Like, it gives us just a better outlook on what we should be doing. Again, like, this whole idea is kind of presented on the impression, again, that people want to be able to make some type of living off of tricking, not necessarily solely off tricking, but to have it to be, some type of meaningful income that helps. That's not for everyone. Some people don't care. We understand that. If you're one of those people, if you happen to be hearing this and you're a tricker and you're kind of like, I really don't really care about making money off of it, I don't need that. That's great, man. Like, that's great. But that's not how everyone else feels. And since it doesn't affect you, you have no opinion. Okay? Like, just keep it to yourself. If you're going to be tricking no matter what happens, then why care? You know what I mean? If you're going to be like a nihilist about it, then you have no opinion. You just forfeited your opinion. Okay? For the people who do care and the people who would like to see this happen, but right now they may be in a place where they feel like they don't have a whole lot of power, a whole lot of influence, start talking, man. Like, start getting in there, bouncing some things off of people. Even if you're not good, like, just get those ideas out there. There's lots of books to be read. There's lots of, strategies. We're living in a whole new age. Internet, like, it's faster than ever. And because this information is all over the place, like, you have to understand that because the information is all over the place, people are going to weaponize misinformation. If knowledge is power, then people are still trying to keep you from getting that knowledge. So everything that you hear and say at some point might not necessarily be the truth. We already, see this with fake news memes and a lot of things being like misrepresented and shit. So it's like, if you're going to talk about something, like really get in there and immerse yourself in in some real shit, man. Like, don't just talk, this fantasy shit like it's a goddamn anime thing. Like, talk like real shit, like real business shit, real, and cut to the meat of it. You know what I mean? And just do the best you can, man. Like we presented all sorts of type of arguments, and all sorts of type of ideas. There's been a ton of projects and things that's gone out there, and a lot of them were rejected. They didn't even get off the ground. Like, a lot of them were just rejected. The community wasn't having it, So there's some things that didn't necessarily fail. They just didn't start. Like, the community just wasn't feeling it. And it's up to y'all, man. Like Pete said, not to beat a dead horse, but we're getting up there in age, man. Like we really don't have any dogs in this fight anymore. It's really up to y'all. If y'all want to save it, like, or just kind of give it a better outlook, it's completely up to y'all. Like, but you have to do it, and you have to do it for real. Because as more time goes by, you're gonna have more of these, non-good faith actors is gonna come in and just, try to hijack the movement. It's gonna happen, and yeah, and it's on y'all's watch. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say.
Indeed. And even if they don't hijack it, they will hijack the discourse. And there's plenty that we're not talking about. Like you said, get in there, talk to each other. The same way that you deal with tricks, that creative impulse, this ability to see things in a different way and to apply them and try them. It's easy if you're a boss on the floor. It's difficult when you're doing, when you're trying to make real moves. And the patience, you need the patience, the time and the patience. And what we really wanted to talk about, we did, relatedness, immersion, love of the art, supporting each other. If you tuned in to listen to this and wanted to get, our take on adrenaline, or, get some sort of solution, something hard that you can take to the bank, it's that you're not ready yet. The community's not ready yet. The world's not ready yet. The preparations need to be made. And that means be patient. Start talking about it. It'll manifest, but it's not gonna. You can't open the window and make the wind blow, but you can open that window. Now the opportunity's there. So talk to each other. Hopefully we'll do another one of these talks soon. But I think hour and a half is good. I probably have a lot more to say and could go a bit longer, but I just got back from the East Coast yesterday. Rough trip. So yeah, I'm getting a little bit spent here. Again, thank you very much to Sessh, who's out there. I believe it's nearly 1 a.m. over there now. Is that right?
Yeah, 12:45.
So really appreciate your time and the subsequent conversations that led up to this one. I hope we didn't abandon any listeners and jumping back into the past. And if this does end up published, then please go ahead and ask your questions online. Again, I'll try to timestamp this, and we'll try to hunt down some media that's referenced here. But that's about it, and that's about all. And we'll see you next time on Pockets Out Radio. And if you want to see the third hour of this program, it's a mere $69.95, and you can log into pocketsout.tv, and you can become a member. Now, if you want to get the extra bonus of chatting with the participants in our next show, you can go to my Patreon, where a mere $315 a month gives you 45 minutes of premium content. And by premium content, I mean about 30 minutes of me promoting myself like this, and then some drivel. So you got that too, and that's it. We're done.